They say wealth planning is just about numbers, but if you run a family business, you definitely know better. Misalignment of goals, lack of communication, and outdated plans can quietly erode everything you've built. At Axio Wealth Management, we work with business owners of all the time to help them navigate with clarity and care. Today, we're going to be unpacking the real reasons why legacies fall apart and how to make sure yours doesn't.
Welcome in. This is Legacy Beyond Wealth. I'm Ben George with Rob Shelton, founder of Axio Wealth Management. As he talked about, today's episode is going to be all for family business owners who want smarter, more strategic ways to preserve wealth, avoid conflict, and transition smoothly across generations. And this is a great topic, I think, because this is something you work on quite a bit at Axio, isn't it, Rob?
It is. And, a lot of time, the biggest myth is that wealth planning is just all about money. And a lot of the times, it definitely, money is a big indicator and thing we work with, but there's a lot of underlying things that really affect how we look at money and deal with it.
Yeah, we're going to run through those today as well. If you have any questions for Rob, we always encourage you to sit down with him and just begin kind of that discovery that discovery process. That first initial meeting is a great opportunity to talk through some of your goals, some of your maybe concerns, some of the obstacles in your life that you're trying to work around. AxioWM.com is the website, but also everything's in the show description as well, so you can check that out. And again, take advantage of that complimentary consultation you can have there with Rob. So as we talk about this, I think it's interesting because you talk about it's not just about wealth, and it's not just about the number. So what have you found to be the biggest myth family business owners believe when it comes to wealth planning?
Yeah, I think that is the biggest myth, is being about money, or how to be able to grow that money to be a certain size to reach what they would believe to be the number they need for their family. But a lot of times it's about diving deeper about the values, the personalities, and making sure those are all in alignment. A lot of times you'll find with a business owner that they may have certain perceptions about their children wanting to take over the business. And if there's not active conversations going on and talking about that and clearly getting some clarity around the values, it can really lead to some confusion at the end.
Well, what are the biggest risks then if you are focused too much on the technical side, on the numbers? What do you put at risk?
So first, I'd say hiring the wrong advisor. Sometimes you definitely want someone that's smart, but not, I would say, too smart or too into the technical details of the numbers themselves. You need someone that can pull back and look at the relationship side of things, because if you think about it, family businesses are all about relationships. That's the whole reason the business owner started the business to begin with, is to bless his relationships that exist there. And we definitely don't want the numbers or the money to be a divider. So the numbers and the technical side are very important, but you also have to know the family dynamics as well. I would say the second one is focusing too much on taxes. We definitely want efficiency, but not at the expense of fairness and making sure we're building it with care and harmony. I've seen different business owners who maybe will benefit maybe one child over the other because of maybe a tax benefit that would be there, but that definitely creates some division. And sometimes it might be worth paying the tax to make sure that there's no division among the family. And that's something to be calculated carefully. And last but not least is keeping secrets. Silence leads to confusion and mistrust. And you have to make sure that everyone is talking openly about it. I remember talking with a business owner, and he was looking at one son taking over the business, and his son actually took on a second job because he couldn't be able to afford the lifestyle his family wanted based on what he was getting from the family business. And it caused a lot of resentment for that child, but they never openly talked about it. And so plans were being put in place with the wrong perceptions because secrets were being kept. And so that open and honesty is so important.
Yeah, that's a good story. And I think we're all kind of guilty of that to some degree, not communicating quite a bit. So what are the last two mistakes that you commonly see?
Yeah, I'd see number 4 is failing to update the plan. It's great to be able to do planning ahead of time, but if we're not actively updating that from time to time, that can definitely lead to laws that change and evolve, or even family roles change and evolve. The older I get, the more I see how change is really a constant in life. And I look back at maybe my beginning plans and where things are at, and looking now where things are headed in the future with different law changes and family relationships that change and people that change. We want to make sure that that plan is updated. And then, number 5, we want to make sure that we're assuming that the sale is final or failure. And when we think about that, we think about this family business maybe going on into perpetuity. And sometimes selling the business doesn't always lead to the thought of failure. And so business owners that are open to selling the business, it generated maybe that core financial structure by selling the business to continue the dreams on, especially when you don't have anyone that really wants to be able to continue to run the business. I can think of one of these where that thought was with the business owner we were working with, and tried so hard to keep his kids to be involved in the business, but they really didn't want to be. It wasn't their passion. It wasn't helping them create their best life. And the best thing for the family was to sell that to another owner that was passionate about running the business. And they were still able to bless the family and keep the same values and goals they had with just a little bit different financial structure than keeping the company.
Yeah, I would imagine that's got to be a tough position to be in because I mean, you're a business owner yourself, Rob, so you might cross this bridge at some point where you may not be able to pass on the business. Maybe nobody wants to run it and you have to kind of walk away. I guess I can see how that can feel like failure in terms of the business is no longer moving forward without me. But I also do see that is a huge opportunity to provide that freedom that you're looking for and give yourself that independence and your family that independence that you've worked so hard to gain.
Yeah, I think that's pretty one of the misconceptions I had when I started having kids is I thought they'd be exactly like me. I thought, they're coming from the gene pool, and I've got 3 kids and they're very different from each other and all have great talents and weaknesses in different areas. And so as you look at that, I think if you take an honest assessment, just because I find passion in running a certain company doesn't necessarily that's going to translate well just to my children.
Are you ready to unlock the freedom to live your best life? Schedule your no-cost 60-minute discovery meeting with our team today. During this session, we'll take the time to understand your family story and financial dreams. Together, we'll craft a personalized roadmap designed to help you achieve your goals. Let's explore how we can unlock the freedom for you and your family to thrive. Just click the link in the description of today's show to get started.
So as we mentioned, Axio Wealth Management helps business owners all the time with these things. And when we talk about these mistakes and how we want to look beyond wealth, beyond just the numbers, how does Axio help in that process?
Yeah, I think the first thing is the level of care. I can't stress that enough. Finding an advisor that's not transactional, that's a fiduciary, we call that the big F word in our industry, the ability to make sure you're looking after your clients' interests over your own as a financial advisor is so critical. And so being able to do a deep dive to get to know the intricacies of the family, to be a trusted advisor, to understand maybe some of these complexities that exist out there. We're trying to align values and goals of the family with tax strategies and exit strategies and money strategies, and getting those to align give you the best chances of success to really unlock that financial freedom, because that's really what business owners are trying to do with their business, is have it help them unlock the financial freedom to help them and their families live their best life. And that's not an easy thing to do if you don't have the experience in working in those complexities.
Yeah, I know Axio does take a comprehensive approach to everything. We've talked about the dream team you put together to help assemble and make sure that all these different areas of planning are met. And for business owners, that's so important. And I guess it's also important to mention that you don't have to be $1 billion business, right, to really be able to enjoy this personal service and this touch, kind of a boutique operation that you run where you actually have that hands-on white glove approach for everyone you work with.
Yeah, because when you look at it, success isn't about dollars, right? Sometimes we equate that to be there. In one of our books that I wrote, we talked about that as we asked 5 different successful families what success meant to them. Most of the time, they didn't even mention that money was even a part of that equation of success. And so you mentioned, not having $1 billion company or whatever it may be. As we look at it, the better success actually starts the sooner we are able to get involved with the family, because the sooner we can align the values and the goals to the business and its growth and an exit strategy. And even though that exit strategy may change, we can pivot and be flexible with it. it adds so much more success than getting right there at the very end, making decisions under pressure where we've had maybe years or maybe even a decade to work with that family and to prepare them and to help guide them along what would really be the key to helping them, like we mentioned, unlocking that freedom to live that best life for them.
Well, if there's a business owner watching this and wants to take the next step and actually get you involved with their family now because they want to begin that process and begin setting themselves up and their future generations up for success, is that discovery call the best place to start?
Absolutely is. And, I love it because every year we're going to go through, if they become a client, do what we call a total client profile on them. And I love going back through with clients that we started with in the initial discovery and dusting that off once a year and making the changes that they have in their life that have affected their goals and their values of where they want to go. And so it starts right there with us being able to really get to know the client and being able to see if we can assess if our services would be the best fit for them.
Very good. We can go to AxioWM.com. All this stuff is in the show description. So if you want to get in touch, that's the best place to start. And if you're not watching us on YouTube yet, if you're just listening to us somewhere, come over to YouTube as well. We'd appreciate that support. And if you've enjoyed the show, if you found it informational, please subscribe. If you want to leave a comment or question for Rob, you can do so on the video as well. But please subscribe. Help us continue growing the channel. All right, Rob, that's a great kind of insight into business owners and the mistakes they make. So again, take the next step, schedule that discovery call, and hopefully this has helped the business owner out along the way.
Thanks.